another sit-down edition. This week I'm joined by Ben Hadley. Ben is one of the most intellectual car guys I've ever met. I think he's really, really smart when it comes to the process part of it. He grew up around the car business, family in the car business, as a matter of fact, owned multiple dealerships and actually ran from it. Him telling that story is part of what I love about him. Here's what I want you to take away, though. What we talk about is this idea that making the journey to buying a car more exciting and more fun is probably going to be A, easier on everyone, and B, really what everyone's after. And creating a culture where it's cool to sell cars and making it cool to buy cars is something that I think is a great idea. And that's what Ben's talking about, and that's what we're on to. So this is a long one. I don't expect you to sit through all of it, but at once. But you should definitely be watching the entirety of it because the conversation's wonderful. And if you don't follow Ben, check him out. And next week, we're going to have another all-star. This time, we're going to go north of the border. So enjoy this week with Ben. We'll see you again next week. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. Today is a sit-down edition. So as you all know, we're going to go well past our 10-minute guideline. I'm joined today by my man, Ben Hadley. Ben, how are you, man?
I'm doing pretty awesome, man. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you for taking the time out. I know you've got a lot going on, obviously, with everything going on around us, but you're also on your way to being a father, which I know we were just talking about. It's crazy cool. So, again, thanks for putting aside the time.
Anytime, man.
So, Ben, right now, I know you're on a consulting gig or working with a consulting company. Quick background, give us your 30,000-foot view of what Ben's spot in automotive for, give me the last 10 years highlight, as quickly as you can.
Oh, man, quickly is not my game, but okay. So let's see. To get out of college, I had to take an internship. It got rejected a bunch of times at dealer.com. Finally, they said, okay, we'll let you in. I was like, great. Did that for 7 years through the DealerTrack acquisition, the Cox acquisition. Left there as a sales director for the Midwest, and then started working at a company called Clairvoy, doing multi-touch attribution models as the vice president of strategy. Did that for 2 years, left and went to a company in San Francisco, small startup called Prodigy that does digital retail and does it in a very different way. And then, let's see, about 4 or 5 months ago, started a consultancy called Leviathan LLC, where I've basically been advising partners, so vendors and dealers on kind of go-to-market strategy, tech stack optimization, that kind of thing.
That's awesome, man. I love that last part because I think that's really what you're doing now. I think really combines a lot of what needs to happen. And people, that's really what you and I were talking about, is this idea of strategy.
Yeah, man. And I'll actually throw in too, because I should say, like, my family has, now it's 4 dealerships in Burlington, Vermont. So the other piece of that is I almost feel like auto's been a lifelong thing for me. I will say, like, I was very disconnected from the family business, but then always kind of was part of the discussion, during holidays or whatever. So it's always been a part of my life from very early on. So it's almost been one of those things that, like, I couldn't even escape if I wanted to.
Well, I was going to ask you though, but it was a very interesting way you phrased that. You said you sort of ran from it. Why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, and actually, part of one of my missions, I think, is to make it cool, or make it. Okay, I'll put it this way. I've seen guys at, like, whatever, charity events, or, like, social gatherings, and they're in auto, and someone will be like, hey, so what do you do? And they'll dance around the question. They'll, like, kind of skirt, and, like, it always lands back to, I sell cars, or I do whatever. But the tendency is to, like, you know, almost
Distance.
mask that a bit.
Yep.
And like, you don't see real estate agents do that. I mean, you don't even see like furniture sales guys do that. You don't see people that, like a guy that works at Best Buy do that. And like, you know, our industry is almost fit right in between, you know, appliance, furniture, real estate. It's like kind of like a microcosm that exists in between those. Yet, like our cousins are proud and psyched to tell you, yeah, oh yeah, I'm a real estate guy. You know, oh, cool. And I kind of wanted to change that perception here, but you know, I guess I was a casualty of the same thought process.
Well, I mean, look, man, I think when you look to pride in what you do for a living is tough for people. And so when you're in this position, because there's a lot of negativity, attached to doing what we do for a living. And I mean, some of the earliest memories I have of being in the car business, I didn't have a family in the business. So I got into it on my own. I got into it from a family friend, and, you'd go places and people would look at you and they'd be like, you're in the car business. And they'd either look down or they'd look down on you or they talk down on you. Now me,
Totally.
I was never that person. You asked me what I did for a living. I told you I sold cars. If you had an insult for me, I was ready for one. I had my own ready for you. And mine typically revolved around money, as selfishly as it was. I mean, again, at 19 years old, making six figures, it was easy to just throw that in space, and tell them, yeah, whatever, get bent. I make money, you don't, type thing.
Right.
But that lends its hand to more kind of nonsense. So I've learned over the years to be proud of the fact that I get to help people with the second biggest purchase of their life. And I get to make it fun and exciting. And dude, I'll be honest, man, I was talking to my wife the other day. This is why I miss retail. I miss being in stores, to be able to be in there and help people with this journey. We joke that I'm just gonna go find the coolest, most beautiful dealership in the U.S. and hope they'll hire me as a sales guy and just build a brand, build a business, and just hang out, man. Be somewhere beautiful, because I could sell Subarus, Cadillacs, but it doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. Cars are cars. It's about people and experience. And I think you're someone who always focuses on experience, Ben. So where does that all come from? The same root for you? The fact that you are so hyper focused on the experience of buying a car is because you want to make it, I like the way you say it too, you want to make it cool. See, I always say that I want to leave this business better than I found it. But now I might start saying I want to make this business cooler than I found it, because I like when you say that. So is that all connected for you, man? Is that why you put there about the process?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, part of it is like having a baby, right? And you're like, one day she's going to say, hey, what's dad do? And, if I had done my job well and really well, then she will be pumped to go and tell her classmates exactly what I do to help people. And I think that's been a perspective change for me. I think in terms of like making it cooler, one of the things I think a lot about is in my journey, so when I entered into DDC, dealer.com, it was right after the recession, or right in the core of the recession, really, like 2009 to 10-ish. And I had all these friends that were also recent college grads, and they were like promised, sweet jobs just for getting that degree, and kind of finished that, had that diploma, and got really nothing for it. And they were working at like, a Best Buy. I think Circuit City just closed, so a couple of them went to Staples. You know what I mean? Like really super intelligent guys. And I'm thinking in my head, man, none of them, I have not a single friend that during that time thought of auto as an opportunity. And so now, it's not necessarily, I think when we think of cooler, or we think of technology, we're often thinking about it in terms of like improving something for the consumer. But, now we have about 36% of the people we hire in the industry at a dealership will be a millennial in the next year. And 33% of the people we sell to will be millennials. the number one thing a millennial hates is negotiation. So if you just look at that, you're going to have, we're tending to think on the one side of the table, the consumer side of the table. Man, the customer's going to hate negotiation. But your salesperson's going to hate negotiation too. And that's like the core part of his job. So like a third of the time, you're going to have a millennial on one side of the table, speaking to a millennial on the other side of the table, and then both are like dreading the negotiation that's about to happen. So I think, it's almost a necessary thing at this point to make these changes so that we attract really good people as hires, but also, so that we're meeting the demands of the consumer.
I think it's I think that's why this whole thing, as rough as it's been, and everyone job loss and businesses closing and all these terrible things, for our sector, there's a little bit of silver lining if you take this as an opportunity to retool what it is that you've been doing. Now, my world is all about ad budgets. That's what I deal with from a core competency for our business. But when you look at that and you see what happens when someone stops spending money, and now these guys, some of my guys haven't even started spending money yet. June was a record, right? So they look at me and they're like, "What's the point?" Okay, well, yeah, I get it. I totally understand. But the strategy of who you are, to me, isn't about selling cars. You're a car dealership. That's a given. I mean, you have to tell people that. It's just like having a sale. Again, you're a car dealer. We know it. So what's the experience about? And you come up with price, man. One price stores have always been cool to me. I don't think Saturn failed because of one price. I think Saturn failed because the car sucked. I don't think it had anything to do with one price. But if I look at one price stores that I deal with, I would say to you that as a car guy, a hardcore car guy, negotiation his whole life, 100% commission since I was 18 years old. When I was sitting in stores, observing what was going on and watching customers be walked out of the door over $250 or $500 on price, because the price is the price, right? So consumers would come in and be like, yeah, you're a car dealer, ha, ha, ha. They'd sit down, they'd ask for a negotiation, and someone would say, no, the price is the price. And the customer would say, well, for $250 more, I won't drive another 10 minutes, but are you going to do that? And the guys would say, no, sorry, the price is listed. So do you think our industry has, because that's very few and far between, that's the Rydell group, by the way, and they're a cut above the rest when it comes to the one price.
They're killers.
You know? But so do you think that our industry can stomach it? Do you think they really can sit there and say, I'll lose a deal over $250 if the consumer wants to walk?
I don't right now. No, I think what's happened is that we've painted ourselves into a corner that's going to be really tough to get out of. I often think like, okay, say a customer has a car for an average of 7 years, right? And let's rewind the clock to 2006. Dealership might have just gotten their first website, maybe. They're pretty progressive. And there's a button on that website that says, get $500 off if you give me your email. So I think about this because can you imagine there's a guy, on his couch next to his wife, on his computer, and he looks over and he goes, honey, you'll never believe our luck. All I have to do is give them my email address, and they're going to knock $500 right off this thing. Let's do it twice, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, nothing really happened by clicking that button. He probably got a call, hopefully in the next half hour, less than that.
Not then. Not then. Not in 2005.
You don't think so?
Not under your current parameters, sir. No, that's not what happens then at all. It was people, because I was there. I was the heart of my retail experience. So no, I was there.
Were people picking up the auto by telefax going, what do we do?
Ben, you've heard me say it, obviously, or we've talked about it, because I was always confounding, right? 2003, I'd be sitting there staring and going, all right, I'm waiting for faxes for internet leads, right? And the worst part was, at the time, I didn't have anywhere to put them. I just had stacks of internet leads on my desk. There was no CRM like Cobalt's ILM back then was was rough. I mean, if you wanted to screw with it, go ahead. But I mean, again, dating myself, that's part of it. That's part of what I really, when I got my website, it was one of those things that, again, right away, I thought, we're going to make this easier for the consumer. This is going to be great. Websites make things easier. And all we did was take the newspaper and cram it into the internet and just make it the same mentality, which is pick it up, call, conversion. Because we, as an industry, we live on leads. Like it's the only thing that we know how to communicate. But I'll be honest with you, because I predate the internet world, starting in '98, my owner came to me in 2000, told me to sit in the corner and figure out who Auto Trader was. All right. But that before that, it was about your book of business, Ben. That is how that is so hard for me, a Chicago market getting started. I didn't have a book of business. So when someone told me to go sit in the corner and have leads come in, that made total sense to me because I didn't have any. But when they started telling me to give it to the guys who've been there for 5 years, 7 years, who already have books of business, I became thoroughly confused because I didn't understand why they needed those leads. They should already have their own. So then that's where I went I went all the way into my customers, not the dealerships, right? How many salespeople today do you really think even have the mentality to own their own database? Truly. Like, I know it's easy to blame the dealer, not empowering them, not training them, sure. But from a sales perspective.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, okay, two things I want to make sure we link together. So one is like that person, that person that like fell for it once on the button, right?
Yeah.
Probably didn't fall for it again. Maybe still a loyal customer, but like maybe we rebranded the button 7 years after 2006. Call it like 2013.
We did.
Loyal customer comes back, right?
We did. Yeah, we call it get your check price or
get your e-price.
Availability is what we
check availability. Well, that's a good one too. But I think that person probably thought, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Like, I'm not clicking that thing. And then we're like, wait, why are form submissions going down? Well, like, obviously the button meant nothing for years. So there's so much mistrust in any button we present on the website. So to answer your first question, I don't think we're in a situation where a dealer could get to one price because almost everything on the website gets called into question anyways. And so we're going to need to work. I've always thought of sales as teaching customers how to buy.
Yes.
And so, we've taught our customers a very specific way to buy. We're going to have to reteach them. So in 7 years, maybe things mean something. Maybe there's trust in that button you click. Your second question, do I think that salespeople are equipped to handle their own data? No, I don't think most of them are. I think most salespeople, and I put this a little bit more on the dealer's shoulders, are thrown to the wolves, and it's like sink or swim. And there's good guys that probably just needed a little bit more training in order to become great people, but we lost them. We lost them from in the industry probably as a whole. But I do love the idea of, like, I don't know what an average dealer sells per year. Call it, what would you say? Like,
I mean, I would just call it 100 cars because we're probably going to do some math off this. So let's just make it easy on ourselves.
Okay.
Call it 100 cars.
Say you're selling 100 cars a month. You're at 1,200 a year. Customer is going to hold on to that for 7 years, right? And then renew. So, like, you need to come up with 8,000 customers, roughly, that are 100% loyal, right?
Good
like,
luck.
if a dealership could do that, then they're actually more attractive as an investment than if they tried to go after consistent net new business, but not try to retain their current book of business. And And the way I look at it is like, look at the vendors in the space, right? Look at your CRM company. You pay them monthly, right? Chances are you've been a customer of theirs for a very long time. And they rely on the 3,000, 4,000, whatever dealers that they've secured as loyal customers to renew every year. I think there's a lot that the dealerships could start emulating at the vendor level, that the vendors are doing to the dealer.
Well, now you're starting to get into what I deal with every day of my life. So you're going to have to continue to walk me through that, Ben, because some of the things that I see on the vendor side really match up in a poor way with what dealerships are doing, right? So that's something to me that I think we've got to be careful with. But I think we could do a better job of understanding our technology, our price per square foot, like you and I were talking about earlier. That idea, I think we could do better with how many, do you need, back to our example of 100 cars. Do I need, to sell 100 cars, do I need 10 guys to sell 10? Or do I just need 5 awesome ones to sell 20? Right? And that's where my math comes back to is how best do we sell that 100 cars? My math is 5 on 20. I don't need 10 guys standing around doing 10 cars. That's not enough. 5 on 20 means they're invested. And even then, even at 5 on 20, and they're going to work 25 days a month, they got to sell 1 car a day. Should take no more than 2 hours if we're doing it the right way, the way that I've been talking about doing it. So what else are you doing in a given day? I mean, there's no other job like a car salesman job, because once the job is done, we can walk the lot, we can smoke the cigarettes, we can talk with friends, we can be on the cell phone with the lady, argue. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the job got done. That's the problem. Is because now it ties into hours, Ben. Because you're talking about making both sides of this cooler. You're talking about making a car cooler and selling a car cooler. And I'm totally down for that, because I want to attract great people to our business. But with our hours, with our management styles, with our lack of training, who is going to be interested? The only reason I got here is because I was selling a commodity, men's suits, and a family friend said, Sean, I know you love money. Imagine the commission you'd make if you sold a car, if you did it as well as you sold suits. And I was like, great. That's a great point. It's great math. Let's go do it.
It's a win.
And we did that, and the commissions were gigantic like he promised, and everything was what he said. And it was just, I was in because I was hooked by money. Now, over the years, it's become way more of passion. And I mean, I've been to the top. I bought into stores. I've gone off the other side. And now I'm on the other side where I see all the opportunity to improve. And I feel like we're missing it. I feel like we have such a point right now where we could make a real impact on people. And we're kind of screwing the whole thing up. And it sucks. And not across the board. I have clients who I've been talking to for years and say, guys, integrate your BDC and your sales department. Please stop separating them. Get a lead, get everyone working on everything together. Now they're doing that, right? And they're having record months, and Sean, look at what it's done for us. Well, of course, because it makes sense. So Ben, in your world, when you talk about omni-channel, which you and I agree, not a word we care for, but it's going to help people understand.
I hate that word.
Because they've heard it. So let's just call it strategy. What are you seeing right now as the most valuable way to sort of come to market for the dealer during this time with strategy across the board, platform to platform? How do you best kind of advise a dealer right now for strategy?
Yeah, one is you're probably not ready for digital retailing. And I'm saying that as a person that is digital retailing's biggest fan.
You really are. Someone should give you a pin for that. There should be the deal.
Yeah, I should have a crown that says King of Digital Retail.
All the digital retail companies should come thank you because you're like the only remaining soul. The reason I don't burn the whole fucking thing down is because I really love you and I love what you do. So I'm going to let you have it. But we're going to get to my point on it. So continue with your love.
Yeah. So I would look at a dealership's website, and I call this VDP vomit. Where at some point I think it was one button works, and then somehow it became 14 buttons.
Yeah, man.
But
Yeah,
like
it's the
the
same sales
crazy thing,
mentality. It's flood the floor, flood
yeah,
the VP. The more leads, the more clicks, the more people. I'm good. It's the worst. I call it dealer math. It's the worst fucking math you could have in the world because it only makes
yeah,
sense to the guy who said it. That's it. It doesn't make sense to anybody
it's
else.
literally, yeah. To your point, right? You would never imagine if you had one customer walked in and you had 4 salespeople run over and work a deal with that person.
Or all
It
ask them
just,
a different question. No, all 4 would run up and they would go, "All right, so do you have a trade-in? No.
yeah,
Do you know with your car? No. Do you need this?
yeah,
No. Need the price?" And they'd be like, "What the
yeah,
fuck? Out of here!" Right?
yeah.
I love it.
That's literally,
That's
that's
what we're doing with
literally
our VDPs.
personification of the website. Yes, 100%.
We're
So,
doing.
that's one piece that I'm like, all right, if you have, 14 buttons, if you have 5, you're probably not ready for digital retail. The bigger one is if you haven't mapped out and made a blueprint on what the process should be to support digital retail, then you're not ready for digital retail. That's probably the main thing. I look at Jeff Bezos and I think like every digital retailing company enters and has some sort of slide at some point in their presentation that says, "Don't you want to be more like Amazon?" But they all miss the key insight of what Amazon did, which was he made a warehouse, a really, really streamlined warehouse first. And it wasn't until like 5-6 years later that he came out and said, "I'm ready to have a buy it now button." It wasn't until that warehouse had the minimum amount of workers it needed to be efficient and to get things at people's doorsteps that he said, "Okay, now we can say buy it now because we know we're making a promise to the customer that now means really like basically now, 2 days, whatever."
Right, and I think that now part of it is a big part of what makes Amazon great, and I think that is the main reason they might have legitimate competition in the new Walmart deal, only because of its already set up infrastructure, right? Bezos has always
Yeah.
said he wishes he had their infrastructure. He wishes he had their physical locations to make into warehouses and do what he does. But there can be something about that, which is so every time someone says Amazon to me, because I'm a dealer at heart and I love my dealers and I love brick and mortar, I go back to Walmart. And now that they're getting into this, it makes even more sense. But my point is that you can do big
I'll
business
give you a counter to
online
that.
and in person, right?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I'm fascinated. So if you actually like map out what Jeff Bezos does and better than anybody else is after he's mastered and created the best process that you can possibly run, the best playbook, the best process, he sells that process to his competition. So, he figured out warehouse logistics and operations and the supply chain management. And originally, right, he was like, "I'm just going to sell my own products." But then he nails it so good that he goes, "Hey, I'm going to open up Amazon Marketplace. Anybody can sell using my mastered operations and logistics."
Dude, and that's
I know you guys can figure
shit, Ben, because you will pay, you pay more for that. These people are going to local retailers and putting that shit back on Amazon. And you as a user are like, "Yep, Amazon, click, click." You
Yeah.
could have walked down to Walmart, bought the same pair of underwear for like $4 less.
Well,
It's on
so
Amazon.
check this out.
I'm good.
It happened again with Amazon Web Services. During that transition, he's like, "I need cloud servers."
Correct. So why don't I just
And they
sell
made them internally.
real estate on those while we get going,
Then he's like, "Cool."
I
Like
already built a farm.
literally
I
a
might
year
as
or
well
two.
let other people use it, right?
Exactly. And then literally, and this is my favorite, is that I think he must have just walked into his warehouse. And, like the warehouse has all these sensors and like little robots running around, whatever. And, but the sensors really like track where all the package is, the items are, all that.
Yeah.
And he must have walked in and said, I've made it so easy in this space that what if I replace the warehouse worker with a customer? And the sensors just took care of the management. And that's how the Amazon Go stores really happened. Is, like in San Francisco, you can go in, you literally, there's nobody in there. You walk in, you grab stuff, you leave, your Amazon account gets charged. No human interaction whatsoever. And now he's selling that technology to Target.
Correct. And
So
now,
like,
and now
to go full circle.
Yeah.
It would be crazy to me
Process.
for people just keep on shelling money to him for his process.
That's what it is. And you know what? So be it. And that's how he operates. That's what he gets done. I look at him. I think of him. I still don't know why he hasn't bought the USPS. I just don't get it. I don't know if it's because of his government red tape. Instead of going out and making your Amazon trucks, just buy a failing organization who already has infrastructure, paint them blue, and move the hell on. I've never understood it. I watch the Amazon trucks in the neighborhood. But again, what did he do there? He outsourced those logistics. He's like, no, you guys already got trucking companies? Cool. Go buy blue vans. Go ahead and slap my logo on the side and start running my deliveries for me. I mean, you can look at the way he stacked all that, right? And takes it all up. And now, I remember reading the first article a couple years ago, like, man, own an Amazon fleet, make $100,000. It's like, maybe I diversify and get into it. And then I looked at the work. I'm like, whoa, this is a lot of work for $100,000, man. It's a lot of, even with a tight process. It's a bit of reach, right? So it's impressive.
Sure.
It's impressive. So, but do you, because I feel like you're on the fence with this one, like I am. Do you really think it's a fair comparison to call Amazon's buying a digital retail of a car? Like, is that apples to apples to you, really? Because everyone does drop the Amazon bomb, and I'm always going.
That's the problem. I think that's my main issue is, right, like, I think, one, buying $30 worth of toilet paper is totally different than buying a car. Part one. Hands down. But the bigger lesson from what Amazon does well, that a dealer or auto just in general should be taken away from it, is like when you click buy it now, now really means something. And when I click a button in automotive, it's a fucking crapshoot. It's like, I don't know. Hopefully this e-price thing gets me something. Maybe. Hopefully this $25 Visa gift card, if I do a test drive, gets me something. Maybe.
Put it mildly.
Right?
Ben, I'm gonna pause you 1 second. I just got a little bit of background noise I'm gonna try and eliminate. All right. Sorry about the technical break there. So your beef is that people are trying to make this comparison about digital retail and Amazon. That's kind of where we left that. What other bridge do you make, Ben? How do you make the bridge back? And can you give me your quick definition when you say digital retail? What exactly are you referring to?
Yeah. So that's okay. That's
right. You were the one that said definitions, right? It's very important that we have definitions. So what's the definition?
So part one to that would be, I think most companies are making the mistake of treating this as a marketing product, and in fact, it's an operations product. I think the second piece to that is, to me, digital retailing is the ability for a customer to participate in portions of the car buying process in a more cohesive environment.
Okay.
That's where I would put it.
Okay.
And but important asterisks on that would be to think of it closer. If I'm a dealer, I'd be thinking of it closer to my CRM than I'd be thinking of it as like SEO or SEM or social ads or marketing. I place it way closer to the technology you use to create a fluid sale.
Okay. All right. So now I love this. So what we're talking about for everybody watching now, from now on, when you think about digital retail, I want you to think about it as the technology to facilitate a discussion digitally in a safer environment for the consumer, a more cohesive environment where they have facts and figures and can move about things as they choose. Fair, Ben?
Fair.
Fair. Excellent. So within digital retail, why is the main, besides VDP vomit, what's the other main reason you could identify quickly in a conversation with someone why they wouldn't be a good fit to even get in the DR world?
I mean, like I said, process, right? Lack of process. The assumption that it's just going to sell you that it's just going to solve the most complicated buying process that a customer ever faces in their life. I would say the VDP vomit thing, I want to make sure isn't necessarily just because things get buried. It's because all 14 of those buttons are not trusted.
Right, and they don't.
Right, so like
not the same. It's not,
they don't communicate results.
Off-site. The other one can be native to the site. The other one can load in what looks to be native but isn't. And again, we as technology car guys are like, yeah, what's the big deal? Who cares? But if you think about it, Amazon never takes you to some subpage. Going back to that example,
yeah.
Even if it's my buddy who does that, that's why I know so much about the whole reselling Amazon worlds, because I have a buddy who, between him and his buddy, they do like millions of dollars. It's insane. It's really it's nuts. So much so that I try and throw money at them to invest and look for like just a 3% return. They're like, Sean, we don't know how we do it. I'm like, look, here's 10 grand. If you make money, just send me back 13. All right, just go do it. So, but when you look at it from that side of things, how can the dealers still feel like they're, because there I am with feelings, but how can they feel like they're still getting opportunities while still, but making it easier? I guess the point is, Ben, do you believe quantity over quality or quality over quantity? Which way does Ben go in his world when he looks at the number of opportunities a store can have? Not just leads, but opportunities in general.
Yeah, so I think I think quality as a focus leads to quantity.
Okay. I like that.
The reason for that is, like, if we're ever going to get to that world, which would be, I think, the ideal world, where you have 10,000 insanely loyal customers that 1,000 of them every year come back, 1,200 of them every year come back and buy their car from you, then you had to have had an insanely high quality sale. But I think that 10,000 people quickly becomes way more if they're given. But that's the kindling for rapid growth, is that people go, you want to go to these guys. I'm loyal. This is why I'm loyal to them. And brings back things like the power of word of mouth. It brings back trust, and brings back believability into the button. Brings back all of those things.
Look,
quantity
couldn't agree more with you.
will get you money, but quality gets you security.
Quality gets you the long-term quantity, which I think is your point, which is what I really like about that discussion. I think you're dead on, man, when you talk about the ability to have. So our company really took off when we stopped selling. We stopped going to just trying 20 groups, trying to push, sell. As soon as we just started doing our jobs, making our customers happy, next thing you know, those people were telling their buddies at 20 groups that we weren't even present in, and then boom, the whole thing. So the second I stopped selling CarBiz blew up and took off on its own. But from a retail perspective, and that's all I have, dude, that's what I've noticed through this whole thing, is that we have, we lost probably 10% of business, maybe 15 during this whole thing. What that says to me is not a bad thing. What it says is I got an 80+% loyal base. And that's what matters to me, because at that level, I can always do business. If that same 80% wanted to keep me as their guy for the rest of their lives, I would be the happiest boy on earth, even if the business didn't grow another dollar, because I'm doing and working with people that I have the ultimate passion to do it for. And I think
Yes.
what's important for people to understand about your point is that dealerships, I learned this a long time ago, from the founder of the Men's Warehouse, one of the smartest guys I ever got time to spend with. And it was that, dude, you don't need customers, you need evangelists. You need people who, no matter where they are, if someone says buy a car, they automatically they go, you have to go here, you have to go here. And I'm reminded of two groups. One I know, you know, Matt Lasher and West Hare. I feel like that's who they are. That's how they operate, given my conversation with Matt, seeing what they do for marketing, frankly, what they don't do for marketing. And then talking with my local group here, Zimbrick Automotive, Madison, Wisconsin, unbelievable group of dealers who doesn't spend what the normal dude spends in market, but still grows its business to $500 million, each year as a company. I agree, man. But how, Ben, how do we make our customers into our evangelists? What do you think is the easiest way, besides trying to rebuild trust in that? Like, let's assume they're in. How do we continue to cultivate the trust?
I think I think it's easy, man. It's just like I said, like, go to your website right now. Get rid of something that says check availability. Get rid of something that says e-price. Like, if it doesn't immediately deliver value to the customer, assume it's useless. Or it's doing brand damage to you in the long term, at least. Because, you might, there's probably another dude today that will, look over and go, honey, can you believe it? There's a better price if I just put in the email address. There's definitely a guy out there, for sure. But that guy is less tomorrow and less the next day and less and less and less and less. So I would immediately start putting out stuff that's real, and make sure that before any promises, like, I see a lot of dealers that say, like, express lane, or like quick buy, VIP experience, and you show up at the store, and I can only imagine a customer looking around and going, like, where's that red carpet? Where's that express lane? What do you say? It'd be like if like Hilton or like Marriott Bonvoy was like, if you're a platinum member, you get all these benefits as soon as you walk into the hotel. And then you show up and there's like no individual carpet, no free bottle of water, no free cookie, like they just looked at you and were like, oh, well,
Sorry.
You're like, why didn't I just go to Expedia?
Yeah. Sorry, we were off on our brand image there, but no big deal. Your room's ready. Go have a nice day. Ben, that point of disconnection, I think, is really why I'd like to get away from the idea of using the word omni-channel, because I think it has to do with advertising. Yeah. I think the strategy has to do with what it is you're going to do. You can go tell people that all day, but the biggest waste of advertising dollars is when you do that and do not deliver at a store level. I cannot imagine anything more disastrous than that. Can you?
100%. I mean, like, if I'm honest, I actually think, at least during this COVID moment and possibly a repercussion afterwards, that we actually spent maybe too much time from 2009 to 2019 on optimizing shopping and not enough time on optimizing buying. And I think what you and I both agree on is that, digital retail is one way to optimize buying. That's one way. But it occurred to me, like, my mom tries to do a Zoom with me. She's almost 70 years old. Every week, she's like, let's get on a Zoom on Wednesday at 7 with the whole family. And I'm like, okay, if my mom can figure out virtual video conferencing, then instead of like schedule an appointment as a button, do schedule a virtual appointment. Use a free Zoom account. Use a free Google Hangouts account. Like, you know what I mean? Make sure there's a person on the other end that will do this, right?
To deliver on the message of the button. Again, the reason that this goes back to what you said. The reason that the $500 button was important is because when they got their price, and if you did your job right and you highlighted the $500 additional savings they got from the coupon, my God, did they feel special? Did they feel like it was just them? They can tell their wife they did a good job, you know, because they did get that extra nickel. And we don't do it. We don't deliver on it. And Ben, you just got me to my point, which is remote retail. You're talking about remote retail, which is the ability to sell a car on the typing, clacking behind me on email. I don't give a shit. And the most important thing about that is whatever you do, however you want to be communicated with, follow the consumer's means of communication. If they want to text you up 400 times, ask you 7,000 things, do not text them back, call you. They're on their fucking phone. They'd have done that if they wanted to do that. They don't want to do that. So here's what they want to do. That's remote retail. And I think people get so tired in their heads about digital retail. They get lost in the fact that if you're going to have a DR button, let me just take you back here. If you're not willing to appraise a trade over the phone, you mean to tell me you're really going to let them get their own value online? Okay, well, that's just fucking weird. You're not willing to give them an actual price online, but you think they can pencil their own payments without you? What are we talking about? Like, and some of it, and I don't want to go too far because you've already been gracious with your time, but some of this goes back to the OEM and the stupidness and requirements of people who know nothing about selling cars. All they know about is wholesaling. And now you're in a bigger mess. Right?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some onus on the OEM in terms of like you set the dealer up a lot for being the bad guy when, you know, the commercial says, hey, everybody gets a $199 lease, and then you get like a $540 in the store, and you're like, I don't know what you want me to do. You know what I mean? It's not you. I think that is a symptom of the same thing of like, hey, this is the promise. Oh, sorry. It just changes who the fall guy is. I think in terms of remote retailing, like, again, you know, I put this up on LinkedIn a few days ago. I was like, look at your favorite vendor, whoever that is. Probably you're a loyal customer, right? So you pay them monthly. Maybe it's your CRM company, maybe it's your advertising, maybe it's your website, whatever. How did they get you to become loyal? And I guarantee you what they did was like a Zoom meeting, email correspondence if that's what you preferred, phone if that's what you'd rather do, text even, because I know a lot of guys only respond to me if I text them. And they did all of what we're talking about to get you to spend $2,000, $4,000 a month on said product, right? It's literally just take that as at least a blueprint and say, all right, what went really well with that vendor, and how could we do the same thing when we're thinking of our own customers? And I think we'd move forward. We'd move the needle a lot.
I like it. I like it because we forget as car guys that we're the easiest laydowns. My wife will tell me that every day in my life. She makes it clear to me that I am the easiest laydown because I'm a laydown because I respect a great process. If your process sucks, I'm the first one to walk out. I don't even let you finish what you're saying because I don't care. I'm out. I'm moving on. But that'll sell me.
I am a Bomboy, you know, AMX bond. Like I got the whole. I'm deep into. Well, it was originally SPG.
But you're deep into the Marriott world.
Yeah, but it was because I was at an airport in Chicago, and this woman, like 3 or 4 times, sir, can I want to save you $50,000 in hotels, like, you know, just boom, boom, boom. And I didn't need it. I was like, oh my God, I just love how persistent you are. And I'm the same way, man. I just appreciate a good sales process. And I'll pretty much bite on anybody that's nailing it. Like I'm just
Yeah. But again, if I bite on the sales pitch and then when it comes time to integrate and go the way that you said it was going to go and it doesn't, I'm also the first one to bail. I'm not going to just do things because if you overpromise to me and underdeliver, that's a badness on you. And I think that's what our industry has always struggled with. I think that's what I was, as a dealer, I was always saying, my guys, look, you tell that customer the price they can buy the car for, that's what they're going to buy the car for. That's what's going to set us apart. If we just, I remember going to my owner one time, telling him to run an ad that just said what you see, what price you see is the price you can buy for. Just a black background, white writing, run it for 30 seconds on the screen, just have people stare at it with a website below it. Because at the end of the day, if we were willing to honor who we were, what we said we were going to do, people were cool with it. The issue we ran into is when, I'll give you an example. When I was selling cars in Chicago, we would put up two-wheel drive Blazer as the ad car, right, in the newspaper.
Yep.
You know who always got that up? The new guy. So the new guy gets it up. Customer comes in and says, hey, where's this car at? Oh, great. It's right over here, right? It's like an $18,000 Tahoe. People cannot believe it. They're blown away. It's brand new. What's going on? They look.
Yeah.
There's no back seat. Okay? There's no back seat. There's no it's two-wheel drive. The whole thing's a mess. And the guy is like, he's livid with me. He is like, you guys lied to me. You bait and switch, blah, blah, blah. I said, dude, but didn't you tell me you were a painter? He's like, yeah. I'm like, then this is beautiful for you. Like, what do you mean? We don't have to have a cap. You don't have to go get a bed or nothing like this. Just put some plastic back here and put your shit in here. He looks at me and goes, my ladders will fit easier too. I go, exactly, right? Boom, boom, boom. Drove the car, loved the car, bought the car.
Whoa.
But because it had nothing to do with the fucking car. He was trying to fill a need in his life. He was running a business. He needed a new vehicle to get his business around. Even though he may have been lied to, which is terrible. I didn't run the ad. I didn't place it. I just had to deal with you when it was run and try to explain to you. It's no different than 10 sales, Ben. Your family's been in the business a long time. 10 sales are what I call a steroid. It's the immediate results that you get from a steroid as opposed to a great plan of eating and working out routinely that will get you all of that, but it takes longer and more focus. Would you agree that if we do that in our world, we'd all be better off?
I mean, I think, we just love easy buttons.
Yeah.
But I just think we've finally hit this point. And look, like, I think we've been delivered a lot of actual easy buttons. It's maybe the wrong word, but like if I think back to, and there's a lot of really hyper progressive dealers that this does not apply to, but I would say a good litmus test for the average dealer would be to say, like, all right, in 2010, one of the objections I got at dealer.com, I went to a dealer and I was like, you should get a website. They didn't have a website, didn't have a website in 2010. iPhone's already out. And we went back and forth and he said, all right, how about this? Well, I'll do a web page, but I don't want to show any cars. And I was like, explain to me. And he was like, well, if they want to see the cars, they got to come in. And I was just like, no, this isn't, and like, meanwhile, like, who will show you a car? Well, Cars.com will, Auto Trader will, Edmunds will, right?
By the way, those are already my cars. Just so we're clear, those are already my cars. This was our own fault that we are now paying people to resell our inventory on our behalf. Dude, I sat on a call the other day where the vendor was like, yeah, so we're going to need to charge you like $99 and get access to your data. I'm like, hold on. You want to charge me for access to my data to make you better at your job? He goes, yeah. No way. Crazy. No way, dude. What is this?
We've left that gap open. So like 2013, it was transparent pricing. Dealer says, no, they want a price, come in. Well, TrueCar and Car Gurus pop up pretty quick.
Give you your prices. Then they turn into the pariah because they were going to do it first. And now that you're willing to do it, now they're the bad guys. It's the whole It's just a cyclical.
It's a rinse and repeat thing. And I would say, even though Carvana's a dealer, right, technically, I would say that is an example of, it's 2020. And now there's this emotional rush to go and participate in something like digital retail. Great. But for the majority, in each of those instances, there was a catalyst, like an external catalyst, that was like, oh, wow, Cars and Auto Trader and Edmunds are showing 120 pictures, whatever. Okay, fine. You know what? This web page idea, no, we're going to do a full-on website. And then the transparent price, oh, we should do that. And then Carvana, oh, we should do that too. What I'm trying to get at is that, like, it's your inventory, right? But you can also be the leader and have the third party catch up. And I think that's such a more comfortable space to be in than to look up and go, oh, crap, another guy did another thing. Now I got to react. I think it's finally a time in the industry where dealers are going to start being way more proactive in giving, like, these third parties a run for their money in terms of, like, technologically progressing against them.
Well, dude, I'll bring it back to, we'll kind of wrap this up again. You've been awesome with your time. Wrap it up. I would say that I learned everything about selling from the Men's Warehouse where I work. That's where I got my first real-time gig, made real money. I was one of the youngest GMs in company history and got to spend time with George and the upper guys. And one of the things that always stood out to me was that it was the experience, Ben. Have you ever been to a Men's Warehouse, Ben? Have you ever needed a suit?
Oh, yeah.
One?
Yep.
So my wife always talks about this story because when you were there, man, it was me and you, this was an experience, and they built it to be an experience, and they trained you, Ben. We had to fly out to San Jose to go to Men's Warehouse dude, for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You were wrapped up like in a bubble, just all Men's Warehouse all day. The culture, the people, the presentations, right? When I was doing that, I thought, man, this is awesome. But then I started to put a spin on it, right? I'm showing you a tie, and your wife goes, I hate that tie. I just take it and throw it behind me. I don't even look behind me. So get rid of it. It's not for you. Throwing shit all over the place because they felt like they were in a show. Then other customers were like, what's this guy doing? I'll wait for him. I don't even want to talk to you. And then you could have that. We have the opportunity to do it right now. You have the opportunity to sell a car like this right now. Ben, if you gotta, let's say you did hit the coupon for your wife, and all of a sudden right back to you came, please hook up with a Zoom. Let's talk about your $500 discount in the vehicle of interest. I'm standing in front of it. What would you do?
Yeah.
You'd be in. You'd be like, yes. Meeting.
You'd be so loyal too, because you'd still have, this is the best part about that is that expectations are so low right now.
Correct.
For most dealers.
Yep.
That if you were to just say, yep, here's the thing I'm going to do, and then you do it, it literally will blow customers. People will be like, holy like the button worked.
The button worked.
Oh my God.
He said I would get it.
Crazy.
And I got it. And loyalty, Ben, is all it's about, dude. When I sold suits, it was all about the loyalty. If I sold the data suit, he came in with a 13-year-old, that 13-year-old is going to have something when he's 15. I'm going to sell him a suit, whatever it was. And you deal with terrible shit too. People come in, they got to go to funerals. You know what I mean? So you got to completely change your approach. There's no throwing ties. We're respectful. We're telling everyone to be quiet. We're going through things. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to read the room. And I don't think we're doing that as an industry very well. I still think even in the beginning of COVID, I see a ton of reviews, right? You were seeing reviews of customers going, can't believe I drove 3 hours to wait 3 hours in a showroom. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh, man. So next time we do this, so I'm sure there'll be a next time. You just brought up one of my favorite topics, which is, so I'm kind of obsessed right now with what I call digital body language. And so whoever's listening to this, I'll leave that, like, this is like a quick synopsis of it, right?
Yeah, all right.
Now imagine you had a customer and they do the digital retailing and they have a trade-in and it's a 3-year-old car and it's got 30,000 miles on it.
It's beautiful.
So that, we'll call them Carol. And then we've got this other customer with the exact same car, and she's trading it in, except it's got 61,112 miles on it. Which one is lower funnel? Which one's buying a car tomorrow?
The 61,000 mile customer, because they're much closer to having warranties or issues, wear, tear, typically, and they probably ride the shit out of their cars because they've done 20,000 miles, assuming they bought it new in 3 years. They would be my focus of who I would be interested in most. The 30K car is cool for my used car lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a car deal today.
Totally right answer. I will say wrong reason, but probably still a right reason.
All right. Well, then what's the right reason? It's your example. What's the right reason?
So here we go. One person, and it's kind of a trick question, but one person, right, got to your trade-in app.
Don't with trick questions. We just talked about why trick questions are no good. So I hope this isn't a fucking $500 button trick on me right now because it's starting.
No.
Right. Okay.
So one person shows up, right? They go to your website, they do the trade-in app, and they're like, I think I got 30,000 miles.
Yeah.
The other person, right, gets to that trade-in app, goes downstairs to their garage, turns on the car for a second, looks at the odometer, and it's like 61,112. Okay. Goes back to their computer and writes 61,100, the precise number, right? Nobody just remembers what their odometer says.
Correct.
So we got one guy that's probably just researching because he's just trying to figure out, can I be in the market? If I had roughly 30,000 miles on this thing, what's it worth? The other person's like, no, I'm buying a car soon, so I need exact. Think about the same thing with the O, right? Customer says they owe 13,000. Customer says they owe 12,992. Who called their bank, right?
Correct.
Well, that's to me the tipping point, and that's where I think, as we get into remote selling, that's where I think there's going to be a bigger differentiation in terms of like the training and the process. Those type of cues are going to be what we need to look out for. Because as you were about to say, and this is where I do think you're 1,000% right, where you were alluding to like, hey, look, the 30,000 guy, he's great for my lot. 60,000 person, though, is getting closer to warranty. That's, I think, the next level. So I think, like, if you call the first example as kind of like high school, the like genius level is changing the test drive for each of those customers, because one drove 10,000 miles on average a year, and the other is at 20,000 something miles per year in doing a 40-minute commute to work. Like, are you showing Apple CarPlay? Are you showing Android Auto? Are you making sure their favorite podcast is playing? Are you making them call their best friend on Bluetooth like they normally do on that 40-minute commute? Are you showing them the lane keeping assist features that help them in that highway traffic that they'll inevitably get into? Like, that, I think, is like the level we need to aspire to get to.
So to tie that to full
figuring
circle,
those things out.
I would tell you that that's something that, so I watch a bunch of real estate shows, and one of the ones I watched recently, they were talking about selling it. It's like a fucking $75 million house. Okay. Like there's a handful of people in the world that can even buy that house. All right. $75 million. And they were like, well, how are we going to do it differently? Well, you know what we're going to do is we're going to give everyone, you're going to have to give us a 3-day notice that you want to see the house. We're going to do all our research, and we're going to give you a personalized experience inside this house. So for me, I love sports, blah, blah, blah. Well, this one guy, when he walks in, they found out the dude loves sushi, loves cigars. They had a girl rolling cigars in the cigar room in the house, and then sushi out on the back deck overlooking the ocean. The guy was like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, shaking his head the whole time. And I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed to a very personalized experience. I think that's what the Men's Warehouse taught me. I think that's what I try to do when I sold cars was whatever details you have. Because I don't know, I've said this 100 times, I don't know shit about cars. I don't know horsepower. I don't know anything. The Maroni sticker is how I sold cars if I ever needed stupid details people cared about. But the same guy who taught me everything, George, told me that 90% of my customers care about 10% of what I know, and 10% of my customers care about the other 90%. And the point was, listen more, talk less, you'll be fine. The customer, it's not an old adage for a reason. Customer will tell you how to sell them if you just listen. And in our case, they'll tell you how to sell them if you just watch. If you watch how they're engaging. And Ben, I'll say this. Your example would have certainly tripped me up if you bring those mileages closer together. If you would have said to me, hey, Sean, the customer 30,449, it would have taken me a second, but I've been like, Oh, that seems like real mileage. So when you had to divide so wide, I directly go to miles.
No. I mean, you're still right. I mean, when you you nailed also like the wear and tear, like that changes. You read right into the tea leaves of, you were already going down the path of like empathizing with the customer, like sitting in that person's car seat. You were already talking about, hey, they probably put a lot of wear and tear on it. They're driving a lot of miles. Like you were already going down that path. So like you're already in that mode of like, oh yeah, I can see that person and see what they're doing, which means that you can personalize the experience. And so I was like kind of laughing because I was like, shit, you're skipping a step, man. You're already ahead of it.
It's because realistically, step one to that for most people is reading the lead details. You guys have so much information, and your CRMs don't help you. I get it. But there's so much information locked in there already. Customers putting in notes you're not reading. Customers specifically hit, whether it's the get price, whether it's the availability. We send back the same stupid message, and it doesn't matter. Yeah. If they click on DR, they get the same stupid message back. We're not doing anything to differentiate each single lead provider. I always did. I always said, if I got a cars.com lead, thank them for being on cars.com. Thank them for being here. Whatever it was, because why didn't they convert on my site versus cars.com? I'll give you a guess. Trust is probably it, right? That's probably a good one. They trusted a brand that wasn't actually selling them anything. So of course it was easy to trust someone who wasn't involved in the process.
Yep.
So Ben, in closing this up, man, what would you say? What's the one advice you give to dealers right now as it relates to sort of main thing to focus on moving forward? I don't care if it's advertising, DI, like you're doing some consulting now. What's the one thing that stands out to you as the opportunity?
Sure. Yeah, so I would say if you can, the best thing I think a dealer could do is go and look at and try to identify who their loyal customers are, who they sold the car to numerous times over the years, and personalize a message to that person, whether that's a phone call, text, or whatever, right? But make sure that loyal base that you already have is aware of you and knows that you're thinking of them.
I love it. Personalize the experience is my takeaway from this whole thing. I think it lends its hand to a much better car buying and selling experience. I think it's exciting for people to know that they could be getting the stage ready. That's what one of my first GMs ever called selling cars was you go up on stage, you have an opportunity to be the only one. And to do that, you have to really personalize. And in order to do that, you have to listen, ask the right questions. Because again, these people, what they want to tell you. I made it mandatory, Ben. People buy cars from me. My wife was just bitching at me the other day about this because I still do it to my friends when they call me. Sean, can I buy this car? What's your budget? What does it matter? It's all that matters. You guys wonder why you spend. I don't care what your profit is on the diamond ring I bought my wife. Doesn't matter. I know it was in my budget. I can't care what Amazon makes on a set of underwear. It doesn't matter. It fit my budget. I needed it now. So I think people need to remove the idea of profit, because when asking a consumer, and Ben, you have a lot of car people around you. So next time you're in a room with people talking about buying a car, ask all of them what they would pay to have a better seamless experience. And anyone I asked, immediately it was like up to $1,000, up to $1,000, up to $1,000. And I was like, listen to this. Here we are racing to the bottom as a fucking industry, and the consumer doesn't even want the bottom. They're tired of the bottom. The price is fine, whatever. This is the experience is why they want to buy a car.
Dude, I'll send you a slide right after this. It's one that I was going to post, but I didn't, but it's relevant to what you just said. And maybe you'll showcase it on this, but it's pretty interesting. The battle between, if you use Google Trends, and you look at historic from 2004 to today, and do the word cheapest, and then do the word fastest, it's amazing how much the gap between those two has almost disappeared by today. And specifically during the COVID time, where people care about. I will. Yeah. It's really cool.
That's awesome. And we'll be able to share it on here so you guys will be able to see the image here as we overlay it one way or another. My team will get that figured out. Ben, You have been tremendous, my friend. This has been my longest sit down for a long time. But you're easy to talk to and you make it fun. And I really, again, man, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, man. Happy to do it.
Ben, how can everyone find you?
Hit me up on LinkedIn or benhadley@hey.com.
Okay, so there we are. LinkedIn, where I make my presence known there a few days a week. Ben's on there as well. Guys, check it out. Thank you guys so much. Remember, wherever you listen to podcasts, you will find this. And if you get the visual, go ahead and check it out on the YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you, Ben.
Kill it, bro.